going on, y'all? It's community teacher. Welcome back to Respect Your Elders, and today we at the Thiokol Memorial Museum in Kingsland, Georgia. We're going to talk to these beautiful young women here about the history of Thiokol, the history of coastal Georgia, and just the impact of this event and why it should be recognized with the Congressional Gold Medal. So if we could just go down the line. You can say your name, your connection to Thiokol, just whatever you want people to know about you.
Okay, my name is Hattie Jackson Fogle. I was an employee at Thiokol. I had a brother and a sister-in-law to get killed and a first cousin to get burnt very severe and lost her left arm. And her name is the one that's on the lawsuit against the United States of America.
Thank you.
My name is Ida Mack. I'm a volunteer here. Mama was killed after working 6 weeks at Thiokol. So I'm a volunteer doing everything I can do to help.
Sorry, I'm trying to stop.
Emma Gibbs.
You can wait till this go out so I can edit it out.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go ahead, Ms. Gibbs.
My name is Emma Gibbs, and I was one of the first 55 women to go out there. And I was out there the day of the explosion, and I helped take some of the people to the hospital in St. Mary's.
My name is Janie Everett, and I am the founder of Thiokol Memorial Project. I served as its first president and CEO from 2015 to 2025, and then Ms. Emma Lou became the CEO. I started the project because it was my mother's desire that the people that was killed, her friends and co-workers, be remembered and honored. And so for the past 10, 12 years, we have been working to get them recognized, not only at the local level, the state level, but also the national level. They earned our admiration and appreciation from a grateful nation.
Hi, I'm Denise Williams Curtsey. I'm a former educator of 35 years. My mother was in the accident, and she was active with them and working, and she passed away on the 50th anniversary. And Janie kept talking to me, who's a former classmate, and said, Denise, come on out here. And so I basically come out to help with my mother, what my mother was doing. And I've learned a lot. I've learned more about this project than what my mother told me, okay? And it's been very interesting. And we need your help. Those of you that have seen this video, please come and help. We need financial donations. We need you to come and look and see. Tell your friends about us. We're here, and we're here to commemorate these people.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
please, come and give us your support. We need that. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. So, Ms. Everett, Ms. Gibbs, or whoever wants to speak to it, just can you give us a general overview of what happened at Thiokol and why this is such a big event, not just for our area, but for national history, and why they should be recognized nationally?
Well, like I said, I was one of the first 55 members to go out there. And we were working at 132. Every day we had a fire. And the only thing we did was run out the door and stand up and wait till the men go in there and put the fire out. Then go back to work. I was transferred out the building about 2 weeks before the explosion. That day, when the fire started, they just thought it was an ordinary fire. And they didn't go out far enough. They just stood there and wait for them to put the fire out. But it exploded. I was down at the bunker, and I heard it. The lights that went out, and the people that was on the stools, they knocked them off it. So I ran to the door, because I could see down the 132. And when I looked, all you could see was fire, smoke, and I guess those people in the air, I mean, it was just boom, boom, boom. And supervisor came by, and I asked him what happened. And he said 132 blew up, and everybody was dead. I said, oh, no, everybody can't be dead. He said, well, yeah, everybody got killed. He was picking up the people from where we were, and the other ones that got away, he was taking them to the gate. So another supervisor came by, and he was so upset. He wasn't from around here, and he was trying to take some of the people that was injured to the hospital. So I told him I'd ride with him to show him how to get to St. Mary's Hospital. So when we got there in the back, and the first person I saw was Massey. She was on the boat, on the bus. She was in shock because it blew her arm off. And when I woke up on the porch, the next person I identified was Hutchison. And I went in because I was looking for my sister and my niece, because I didn't see them because they were working in the building. But when I was going through the hospital, the man was trying to open my door, and I saw them in there. And I found out the reason that they survived, they were running. My nephew was a supervisor out there, and he hadn't been too long come from Vietnam. And he pushed them in the ditch and told them to lay flat, don't run. So that's how they survived. So just like she was showing you, they were telling about they'll come back to work. If not, they would go get fired. They called me about a week after they come back. I told them no, I wasn't coming back then. And about 2 weeks ago, I went back. After that, we got OSHA in there. And we used to have safety meetings every morning after that. Everything got most safe after the explosion. Then, after we had the trip flares blew up, we started with 81 millimeters. And you know, everybody was more cautious during that time, because if you hear a pin drop, everybody running. So after we did, the war was over, and we stopped with the 81 millimeter. The men was already doing timid, a pesticide. So we started with them, and then we did some 7 dust. Then we had a herbicide plant out there, and it didn't work too much. So they tore that down. So we went, Union Carbide bought it. So we were doing timid. That's all we were doing out there was timid. And then after Union Carbide left, we had Roe-Blanc. After that, Adventus. The last company was Bear Crop Science. And that's when I retired. But Janie's mother came to me one day, and she said that Janie was coming and she was going to try to start a museum for the people that got killed. And would I help her? I told her yes. So I got on board, and some more of them came in. A lot of them that started off, well, they done passed away. But when she came in, then we started looking around, getting all this stuff here. And a lot of stuff, you know, before she came here, I didn't even think about too much of it.
Yeah.
But after she came in, and we started going around finding out the history and all of that, then we started getting pictures. It took us a while to get the pictures. And all of these people up here, we finally got all of those. And then they went out. Before we did all this, they were suing the government. We couldn't sue Thiokol because Thiokol had workman comp, so they couldn't sue them.
Mm-hmm.
So for 17 years, we were fighting the government, trying to get these people some money. 6 of them still hadn't been paid yet. So we will be working on that. But lately we've came a long way. We got the MA up there and a lot more stuff. We keep going to different places. They're inviting us. We've been to Atlanta and Savannah and Brunswick, Baxley. They keep inviting us to different places, and we are being recognized now. So we want to get better. As long as we go, we're trying to get a museum, and that will be the last day we do. But we got this bill. Our representative Buddy Carter came down, and he introduced a bill in the House up there to get those people the Congressional Gold Medal, which I know they deserve, the family at least. And we are waiting on that. So if the president sign it or whatever, we going to Washington to get the gold medal for those people up there.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, for everyone else, if y'all would, if you are comfortable, could you just kind of get people to understand the effect on your family and on the community of this event?
Yes, sir. With me, like I was 19 and my sister-in-law was 19. My brother was 20 and my cousin was 19. My grandmother and my other cousin, she was a little older. My grandmother would take us to work and pick us up because we didn't have vehicles. My brother had only been employed 7 days because he came home from the job corps and got a job at Thiokol. So he never drawed a paycheck. My cousin Flossie and I and Betty, we were there longer. I started in 70 and I think Betty started shortly after me, her and Flossie. But anyway, it affected my family so that my mother was already sick, but it took her to another level of in her health declining because I went back to Thiokol and she would cry every day. I went back for 5 days and she begged me, do not go back out there. I've lost too much. And that was in 71. In 1980, she died. And I feel like some of it was because that she just could not get over the fact because my brother had came home from the job corps. And it was so amazing. He told her, he said, Mama, I'm home. He said, but I'm going to leave you again, and I'm not coming back. And he got that job at Thiokol and was dead in 7 days. And right now, I tell my grandchildren, I tell all my family about Thiokol because I want them to know their uncle and their aunts and stuff. I want them to know what they were doing, what we were doing, and how much it cost us, the loss of our family members. And I want them to be remembered and honored because my brother's my hero. Even when we were children, he would defend his sisters. He wouldn't let nobody bother us. And to me, as long as I've got breath in my body, I will tell their story and how it affected my life. It still does. Because there are still times I ask God, why you took them and left me? But that morning, I clocked out of that building. They changed my shift. I was on day shift that week before. And they changed and put me on graveyard. My grandmother picked me up and dropped 4 people off. And only one person came back home that day. Because after the explosion, one of my cousins came back home. And the reason why she wasn't in the accident is because they had put her on a van from 132 and was taking her to another building to work because they needed her somewhere else.
Wow. Would anybody else want to share? Thank you for giving us that. It's hard to even imagine the pain and the suffering from this event.
And back then, you couldn't talk about it. And then there was no help for us. We just had to kind of deal with it because there was no counseling or nothing done for the people.
anybody else like to speak on their family's experience? Or?
As I said earlier, my mother was in the accident, and like I said, Jane and I, like I said, had lunch and everything at school, and everybody was crying in the hallway, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Then finally, someone said that they had an explosion, and shortly after that, my great grandmother had someone bring her down there to pick me up from school, and they told me that my mother had been in an accident. And at the time, my father was home. He's a commercial shrimper. And he was in the yard and felt the explosion. And he went down there. He said that would be something that he'd never forget. Because he said all the burnt bodies and everything. He found a lady that had on rings like my mother. But it wasn't, it wasn't her. So like I said, going into the hospital and seeing those people there, it was horrific. It really was, you could tell they were crying, and I'm quite sure they were in pain. They had a lot of them in the same room. And to see them there, how they were, all mangled up, it was just an experience that I'll never forget. But I put it this way, I'm gonna be funny now. My mother would never let me get my driver's license. Even though I was 16, I could not get them. But after the accident, she had no choice. Mm-hmm. Because, like I said, I was a nurse and I was the driver. I had to take her back and forth to Jacksonville, for her treatments and everything. So that helped me out with driving, okay? But like I said, it was something that, like I said, you'll never forget. To see those people, I can vision them right now, how they look laying in that room. It was really something to see. Really something to see. Like I said, to cry and, and they were crying because I know they were probably in pain, the way that they looked. But like I said, for the government to turn their backs on these people, that's a terrible thing. And we shouldn't have to be fighting for these people that gave their lives for a congressional medal. You're giving other people that have not given their lives or whatever, or done something else, and they've gotten them. But these people left families, they left children. They left children here. And they don't want to recognize them. And that's not fair. That's not fair. They were basically, working for the government, even though they were with a contracted company. But the government was backing them and did not want to compensate the families or the people that were left, that were mingled and maimed up. Okay, my mother had she fell, she got hit in the back of the head. It knocked her out. She never was able to regain, proper usage in this arm. They did surgery, but she still could not stretch it out. It also bothered her memory, I guess, from being hit. So like I said, other people have got different things, that have happened. And like Emmylou said, she was there, but God was with her, that she didn't have to go through. But we have some that work with us now that went through that. And I wonder about Henrietta. I said, I wonder how she sleeps at night. Because, I've had some things that have happened, and I know I prayed to God and asked God not to let me even think about it again. So I wonder and I worry about her, but she's doing fine. She's, God spared her life. So like I said, people, I hope that they see this and see what we're fighting for. We're fighting for these people, okay, who gave their lives. So whatever you can do, please help us. Whoever's looking and watching, please help us. We need the help. We're a non-profit organization, and whatever we have comes from donations. Come down and see us. We've had people come through. I've been here from upstates or whatever else, and they said they never knew anything about it. But they were amazed. They had a military guy that came in, and I think that blast on the end down there, that picture, he left, and he came back. He said, I want to see that one more time. He said, I'm going to go research this. Because it bothered him, just what was it? What happened? So people, come down, support Thiokol. Thiokol is here to, remember these 30 people. And whatever you can do, please help us. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well,
I was working at the bag plant that morning, and the building shook. And my husband found out what happened, and he came to me, and he said, do you want to go out there? And I said, yes. And he went upstairs, and it was okay for me to leave. And my sister also was supposed to be there that morning, but she had a doctor's appointment in Jacksonville, and they let her swap shifts. And this is the reason why she wasn't there. And I asked to see Mama, and I was told there is no body, only ashes.
My Lord.
Now, one young lady, she would have been here today, but she told me she had to babysit, which was Henrietta.
Mm-hmm.
And that's her sister,
Gracie.
small up there, life, Gracie. She said they were standing right by each other, and she don't know what happened, because when it went out, when it blew up, it knocked her out. And they thought she was dead. So when they was picking up the dead folks, they were piling them up on her. And she happened to grunt. I guess she was coming to then. And that's when they found out that she was alive. And she said on her way to the hospital, she seen somebody side the road burning. And she asked them if they would stop and try to help them. But they kept going. And so she said about 2 or 3 days later, while she was in the hospital, they told her the one that they seen inside the road burning, that was her sister.
Well, I think the main thing for this project, moving forward, okay, I think that these people should be recognized. And we have a nationwide petition online at thiokolmemorial.org/petition/ that we're asking everyone in America, a citizen, to sign that petition. We have a bill that's on its way to the floor of the House of Representatives in the Congress. And we need to get that 67% vote in favor for it to move on to the Senate for its 67% approval, and then on to the president. This was a tragic event that happened in American history, but it was through the lessons learned from this tragedy that we gained so much as a country. And this community, even though it's small, everybody came together. All of the different communities came together, and they did what they could. We didn't have the ambulatory services. Ordinary people brought their vehicles to help. And then afterwards, we got the ambulatory service throughout the nation. Hospitals were, desegregated. So you could go into any hospital now and get the service that you need, no matter the color of your skin. So if you can imagine us going through COVID, and there was a percentage of rooms that could only go to people of color, we could have never made it, not as a nation. And when you consider now that we're in a conflict, I call it a war, but you need your weapons people here. Alabama, Troy, Alabama, they're making the Patriot. Different places, the plant that blew up in Tennessee in October, they made the explosive. Someone here has to take on the sacred obligation to supply the military. Everything they wear, all of the weapons they use, they're made in America. So we have an obligation. They call forth the military. You can raise an army, but you have to supply that military. And that's what these people were doing. They were on their job, taking care of our sacred obligation to the troops fighting in Vietnam. That's number one. Number two, you have a united workforce of women that were members of a union. They were government contractors. That contract was with the U.S. Army. The CS gas, the trip flares they were working on, the 81s, the 60s. That plant did a lot. But that case that was settled, I believe, would have never been settled had Challenger not gone up and blown up.
That's right.
Challenger blew up, I believe, January 30th, 1986. Thiokol sold the plant to Union Carbide in 1977. And with what their accomplishments in technology, making the world's most powerful rocket engine in 1965, they were able to fulfill their dream of being a NASA contractor. They left from here in 77, went to NASA. They were over Challenger. They had 2 explosions, 15 years apart. Woodbine, 1971, 1986. The trial was still going on in federal court for the people killed here. But when Challenger went up and blew up and killed all the astronauts, Thiokol came forward and went before Congress and took responsibility, something that they did not do in this case. This case, the material thought to be C2, that was C7, the government was found negligent. And we should always pay our debts. We owe these people not only our eternal gratitude for making us better citizens and paving the way to a better modern America, a place where a young woman can get a job and get equal pay, a place where you can get medical care, a place where you can get an ambulance no matter what color of your skin. You know, all of these things, even the value of the loss of life, that formula that was created, Flossie Massey versus the United States of America. When you rewrite a mass tort litigation and it is used from that point forward, people should say thank you. These people lived a life that others could only dream of. They paved the way to a brand new life. So why not recognize them? And we want to bring that national park here, a national monument to remember and honor the 600 workers from Thiokol, the 16 cities that came to help us, the 14 hospitals, the Army, Navy, the Coast Guard. Let's do what's right for our people. It's time for us to heal. It's time to promote and inspire the next generation, because we lived through a time that was segregated. And even with what happened here, God reached out and touched the heart of man, and all of the different elements and different communities, they came together. That racism and everything, it all melted away. We all became human on that one day. And we should be proud that we can say that no matter what happens, we stand together, thick and thin. You know, we have our freedom, and we act like we don't love each other, but when something happens, we set aside the differences, come together, handle the situation, and then we go off in peace.
Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all, seriously. But click the link in my bio, you'll find everything you need to come support, to visit, to donate. Thank y'all for watching.